We take you back to our top story as President Cyril Ramaphosa will today meet the board of Eskom for a briefing on plans to reduce and resolve the current electricity crisis. The president cut short his state visit to Egypt following public backlash and calls by the DA for the ANC to come clean on the structural problems at Eskom. Let's now cross live to our reporter Hitekani Magwedze, who's tracking the developments around the story. Hitekani, a very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us. The president had to cut short his trip to Egypt to come and deal with the electricity crisis in the country. Of course, as the country went into stage 6 load shedding, there was a possibility that we would also go into stage 8. Talk us through the latest developments in terms of the country's electricity crisis.
Well, that's correct. The President Cyril Ramaphosa, of course, cutting short his trip to Egypt. He is set to arrive here. Was set to arrive here at 10, but he is set to arrive here any moment now. Of course, he is coming here to look for answers as to how and why we fell through to stage 6 load shedding. And of course, we know that that was the first time the country has slipped down to stage 6. And he's not the only one seeking answers. I mean, the rest of the country is looking for answers as to why we are daily, seemingly daily, slipping down the slope of darkness, as it were. You would know that stage 6 load shedding came upon us because of those 10 power stations that fell off the grid and couldn't provide power. That comes from years of a lack of maintenance of those power stations, and because of that Medupi power station, a conveyor belt, they breaking down. That Medupi power station costing the country about 450 billion rand and still not being able to work on the optimum. We saw as well President Cyril Ramaphosa a couple of days ago on Twitter praising Medupi power station, and one of the questions that will come up undoubtedly when he comes in here is how he did not know that we would slip down to stage 6 load shedding. We do know currently, of course, that the current status of load shedding is at a steady stage 2 load shedding. But of course, Eskom has continuously said that the grid is not reliable and it's unsteady. So that stage 2 might change in any moment to whatever other stage. You did rightly say that we were under threat to go down to stage 8 load shedding as well. So answers are being sought today, and hopefully the country will be brought into some kind of confidence as to what is really going on. But because it does seem as though the situation is more critical than we are let on. So a lot of questions, and hopefully by the end of the day we'll be having those answers there.
In terms of what's really going on, Hitekani, we heard, we've seen public backlash, and we've also seen parties like the DA being very vocal and saying that the president, perhaps the ANC, needs to come clean on the structural problems at Eskom. We've heard President Cyril Ramaphosa announcing some plans and making some headway in terms of the crisis at Eskom, also speaking very boldly a number of times saying Eskom cannot be allowed to fail. In terms of the plans that are expected to be discussed there, how much do we know about the level of planning and what has happened so far since the president has been hands-on at Eskom?
Well, there are many assumptions, really, but one thing for sure that we know from Eskom is that it has said that its plan and its recovery plan will take about 2 years, and in those 2 years we'll have load shedding. So the part of the plan is, of course, to try and do maintenance on these power stations. And as I said before, we were led to stage 6 load shedding partly because about 10 power stations fell off and they were not functioning. So the bigger plan is, of course, to try and do maintenance while continuing with load shedding. But we also know that the president is currently on what he calls a bold trip or a bold journey to restructure and rebuild Eskom. But the details of those plans we hopefully will get privy to today, and we hopefully will get some type of intro into or privy into the real details into the plans. But I see the president seems to be arriving here. We will give you some shots of him arriving here. But talking to the DA has been proposing for quite a while now that independent power producers should be given the right to play a part in the competition of providing electricity. Sorry, and they have continued that as well. We'll just tilt a bit so we can give you shots of the president arriving here, his security detail coming in there first before him. We assume that there he is with the Minister Pravin Gordhan. We assume that they will be going in there to discuss right now the details as to what happened that Eskom led to that stage 6 load shedding. Of course, this is the emergency meeting that we have been called for. We have seen Minister Gwede as well arriving here, so they will be meeting with the leadership of Eskom. But going back to your question, the DA has always pushed the agenda of an independent public power producer, or rather independent power to make sure that there's reliable power delivered to South Africans, but not only that, reduce the price of electricity. So saying that introducing independent power producers would make sure they break the monopoly of electricity in the country. But we've also seen the EFF saying that this is sabotage, so that the power utility can be given to the private sector. So a couple of notions there from political parties, but we also are sure that the president and the ministers and the leaders of Eskom will try and allay the fears and the concerns of South Africans when they finally address the media in a couple of moments' time.
Thank you so much. Let's leave it there. Our reporter Hitekani Magwedze just monitoring the developments there as President Cyril Ramaphosa has arrived ahead of talks with the board of Eskom just to speak and iron out the electricity problems that the country has experienced for the past 6 days.